I think with most albums I make, I just try to take a snapshot of wherever my head's at a given time. Um, a lot's been made of the fact that it's a solo album, and of course it is my first solo album, but I didn't really think like that. It didn't change the way I work. I always just try to write for the situation I'm in. Um, I decided not to make a sort of typical rock album because that sound is pretty much in my eyes the sound of the Pumpkins. Um, and I like doing that kind of music, but I just felt that for the identity of the kind of music I wanted to create for this, I needed to do something that's a little different. The two main themes of the Future Embrace seem to be this sort of the ending of this long relationship, not necessarily talking about the ending of the relationship, but sort of like where it's left me in my life. At the time I was 37, I'm 38 now, so I have no family, and I've so committed my life to my artistic pursuits that I'm not bitter about that, but it's left me in a kind of a lot of strange positions. And somehow that mixes in with my sort of general state of paranoia about our country and the sort of technological overload that's going on. I think, human beings have never been so technologically rich or information rich, and at the same time, I think people are sort of overloaded by that. They're kind of losing their normal ways of life, but no one's really replacing it with anything. It seems to just be a hyper version of something that's not real. So somehow that all mixed in my mind. The title of Future Embrace is a hopeful title, but it's sort of born out of the idea that I feel like I kind of have no choice. For a long part of my life, I was sort of sentimental about a past that I never had. It was easy to sort of live in that idea because the, the the situation I'd found myself in was too painful. And a lot of the Zen masters will tell you that the only thing worth paying any attention to is the here and now. So the Future Embrace is not sort of like a sentimentality about what can come in the future. It's about sort of saying, okay, I'm going to embrace what's going to happen in my life right now. I'm going to be very active. It's not a passive thing. Well, it's kind of twofold. I chose to not use the conventional drums, bass, big guitar sound, both because I'm so identified with it, and I felt that there's a corner there that I didn't want to paint myself in. Plus, it reminds people of the Pumpkins, and I think for a solo record, having your solo work be reminiscent of your past work, particularly with the band you're known for, I think gets into a trickiness because it just makes people sentimental for the old band and makes them hate you because you're not in the band. But I also chose to take a very progressive approach with the guitar playing. And if anyone gets a chance to see the show, they're surprised because the guitar is pretty processed and it's a lot more guitar driven than people imagine. So it's kind of a weird combination. I've kind of tried to make the machines more human and the guitar more electronic. I'd kind of finished the record, and I felt like the record was sort of missing something. A little bit of just kind of anarchy. It was a little too straight-laced in my eyes because of the nature of the electronics and the way I wrote. It lacked a little bit of kick, so I thought it'd just be kind of fun to write a dumb song. So I wrote Walking Shade, which I don't mean it offensively when I say it's a dumb song. I think a lot of great songs are dumb songs. The song To Love Somebody was a song that I always sort of put on lists as a song I wanted to cover. Whenever I get jealous about a song, that's pretty much a good sign that I wish I'd wrote it. And I felt like there was really a place for it on the album. As far as Robert Smith being involved in the song, he's a friend of mine, and we just talked about him working on the album in some capacity, and that just seemed to be a good fit. So the Bee Gees and Billy and Robert Smith seems to be magic. Yeah, I'd written the song. It was a song I was doing towards the end of the making of the album, the song Dia. And Jimmy just happened to be in town. In the sessions before, he'd never been in town, and so we thought, oh, he's probably not going to be able to be on the record. I wanted him to be on the record. And I'd done a song for his album, so he sort of owed me. And but he just happened to be in town, so he came in the studio, and it's just crazy. We worked so fast together. I think he worked on his drum part for about 75, 90 minutes or something, and it was done. It goes so quick. We speak this weird monkey language, and it's hard to explain. It would almost be an interesting cinema verite to just watch us work on a song from start to finish, like just to run the camera, because it happens so fast. And if people didn't know what we were talking about, they don't think they realized what was going on. I hate being on tour, quite honestly. I hate the travel. I hate the bad beds. Like right now, I'm staying in a hotel where it's like you can't shut off the air conditioning, and I hate air conditioning. It's like I feel like I'm trapped in an ice station. Um, and I think, God, why do I do this? And I think this is my ninth or 10th world tour. But at the moment I step on stage and the fans give me their big smiles and really just, it's hard to explain, but a lot of people are really rooting me on. It's not just, hey, I like this song. It's like, I'm here with you. And in the minute I walk off stage, I'm a sucker for the whole thing all over again. So as far as what to expect for the show, it's an intimate kind of feel of the show. It almost feels like we're playing in a bedroom with this like unbelievable technology behind us. We're using this new LED light technology, and it's pretty interesting. It's pretty futuristic as far as how to stage a concert. I wouldn't say it's unbelievably groundbreaking, but it does sort of challenge the normal rules. I think we've entered into a very strange period where there's a fuzzy relationship between the media, the music business, the entertainment business, and the electronics world and stuff. And what's happening is that art in and of itself is being compromised to a level that has never been compromised before. I'm not one of these people that believes art should be completely free. I believe that people do things, they have a talent, and they should be paid just as much as you would pay someone to cook you a good meal. And there's always going to be a fair price that everyone would agree upon. That being said, though, the way music is being used now to sort of drive entertainment companies, drive selling cars and whatever else, and now is being used in essence to break new music, there's a fundamental compromise. When you create something new in this culture that the culture doesn't understand, the first thing it does is it generally rejects it out of hand. Or it says, what value does this have? And then values are assigned. If you were to look at most significant art over the past 200 years, almost every significant art movement is met at first with critical disdain and being ignored, then is brought in and becomes a cliche. And so from my little end of the world, alternative music, which I had a big part in helping create the sort of cliche sound of alternative music, has become a cliche. I mean, you hear it on car commercials. Kelly Clarkson's new song is basically an alternative song. So as an alternative artist, to step outside of that and once again try to push the boundaries and once again be beaten with the stick and being said, well, you don't sell enough records and you don't do this and you don't do that. No one seems to want to stand up and say, well, wait a second, isn't this the same thing that happened before and before and before? So that's what I mean to stand and fight for my music, because I basically have to go against the entire flow of the entertainment business, the music business, and the subtle undertow, and what I would say to anybody, so if they can at least be empathetic in my position, the subtle undertow is, well, we like what you used to do. Why don't you just do that more of that? But that's not how I became me. That's not how I became passionate about music. I didn't get into this to be somebody's puppet. I'm very encouraged by the current state of music. I think there's a real movement for bands to play. And I think, like the bands we're playing with on this tour, Crimea and Doris Henson, these are both bands that play. They play their own style of music, and the audiences are really responding, and I'm really proud to have them on the tour. Because I was given those same opportunities when I was younger. As far as where I fit in, I think that I'm kind of at an interesting point. I'm 38 years old, and there's not a real cozy road. There's sort of the sellout road that's presented to you, which is, rehashed old hits, put your songs in commercials, go out on the big corporate sponsored tour and get everybody's lighters in the air. The road that I'm charting is really, I would say there's very few people have charted it. I would say Bob Dylan charted a similar road in his own career, and Neil Young, which is you basically say, fuck you all with your expectations in a nice way. And you basically blaze a trail that no one's going to understand until you get it right. I feel that the Future Embrace is the first step along that trail. It's not easy. It confuses people. But at the core of what is going on is the artist's continual commitment to the music, to the pursuit of something new, something dangerous. Because without that, why am I here? Why am I even sitting in this this dirty club. Um, I could go back to my nice house and play with my cats. And I don't mean that rudely. It's just I have a deep love for the music and a commitment to the music, and I don't want to be a puppet on a string that winds up and sings today for the 1,000th time because that's what I'm expected to do. If you ever get a chance to see me singing my hits again, it'll be from my heart because I'm in the right spot doing what I want to do in the right way. And I'm completely committed to that. And if it destroys my career, if it destroys me, I don't really care because um, I got into this for the right reasons and I'll get out for the right reasons. I think I always felt that we had something, but I couldn't put my finger on it. And when we first started, we were sort of more goth and atmospheric, playing almost more pop. And then we got real heavy and we swung all the way to the side and we were playing all these really riff-laden songs. And that wasn't quite working either. And then we sort of swung back in the middle between the two things, between the atmosphere and the heaviness. And it was like overnight, suddenly, every time we play a gig, there would be twice as many people there. So we went from like 400 to 800. And when we go to Milwaukee, suddenly it was like sold out. It was like something clicked. And you couldn't put your finger on it, but it had a sort of, there was a sexiness in the music that was different. It wasn't just straight heavy metal, and it wasn't just sort of like poser alt rock. It had some kind of feeling to it, and I felt like, okay, now we're really onto something. For this quick 60-second synopsis of what happened with Swan, it originally started as a very casual thing. I felt kind of burned by the Pumpkins experience for a lot of reasons, and it was originally just like friends playing some music. We wrote some good songs, played a few gigs. It was kind of casual, not a lot of expectations, not a lot of pressure. But then I started sort of putting across to the band this idea that, okay, well, there comes a point you got to make a record. You got to deal with the reality here. I'd signed a contract with Warner Brothers, and everything was fine with the band until it really got into the real pressure of making a record. And then we started to kind of come against each other. On one side, it was Jimmy and I from the Pumpkins, and then what we call the non-three Pumpkins, and the difference in their lifestyle and their approach. And that started to be really borne out by their drug use, their irresponsible personal behavior, their abuse of the relationships, and it was pretty interesting, for at least from an inside point of view, to watch people who were very high on the adrenaline of the situation, who'd never been in major label situation, except maybe Paz, she'd played with Perfect Circle, but to be sort of on the ground floor and watch the high level of expectations. And once it became obvious to the other three band members that Zwan was not going to be this out of the box huge mega platinum success, it was like the gigs went downhill. The interaction between the band members disintegrated. It was like they were there for all the wrong reasons, and it just became obvious to us, and so we just got the hell out of there. Well, I realized pretty much during the making of The Future Embrace that I devoted my life to the Smashing Pumpkins. And I'd given up the band or let the band disintegrate, or it depends on how you look at it, but it's all the same. Walking away had everything to do with feeling a deep sense of loyalty. But yet, everywhere I go, I'm a Smashing Pumpkin. Everything my life represents is as a Smashing Pumpkin, not in the sense of like, yeah, I used to be in that band. I mean, those were my songs, and that was my blood and heart in that thing. So I felt like, what's the difference, It's like the band's alive in my life every day, so I want the band to be in my life again. I don't. It is. I guess it's almost like, I mean, yes, you make a public declaration, but the fact of the matter is in some ways, the band never went away in my life. My entire plan with the Pumpkins is sort of non-conventional. That probably comes as no surprise to fans. So, in terms of timetables, it's not the same kind of timetables as you would expect from the typical major label release cycles and stuff like that. So, it's not tomorrow, but it's probably sooner than most people would imagine.